Welcome to the And She Spoke podcast. Hey, Sandy.
Hey, Jenny. We have had a long break through August, not recording, took a few holidays. And so we thought that it would be super helpful just to give a little update on what is going on in our personal lives.
Yeah, I think it's also just helpful to talk about what online business has enabled us to do in our lives, even in the midst of this great pandemic that we're in and still very much in, and how that's shifted some decisions for each of us and allowed us, I think, to think a little bit outside of the box in terms of pursuing our dreams and making ourselves happy and not waiting for the world to be perfect or business to be perfect or anything. Just going ahead and doing what we can now to live a life of abundance and joy, even in the midst of chaos.
True. Chaotic out there it is. Okay, well, where do you want to start?
I think we need to start with your work condo because it's all the rage on our Instagram account and you're getting a lot of questions about it and it's such an exciting moment. So tell us, Sandy, tell our listeners, what is a work condo and why did you buy one?
Yes, so that is why I'm a little bit echoey because I'm sitting in an empty room, basically. Furniture is on its way. So a work condo is a regular residential condo that I bought to work in. So there's nothing special. I had a few questions like, we don't have work condos here. It's just a condo. And it's a second property for us. It's an investment property. And it's just an ordinary condo that I've made into a giant office. So where I worked before from my home, which I've been working from for 6-7 years, was challenging. We have a very small house, and I had a corner of a bedroom to work in, and it was just incredibly frustrating. And quite honestly, I hated the space, and there just was no other way or place to work in that house. I tried for a couple of years to convince my husband to buy a new house, and he just wasn't having any of it for various reasons and some good reasons. And so I just decided that I was going to buy my own space and had a moment of insight while I was on holidays. And within 30 days, got the idea and made it happen. In 30 days, I had possession and was working in this work condo.
That's amazing. I love how you just made the decision and then all of a sudden things fell into place and you just made it happen so quickly.
Yeah. So that's so interesting to me because we talk a lot about this on our mindset calls in our Inner Circle program. It was fascinating to me to have this insight. So I was sitting on the grass at the place on holidays where we rented, and I was just enjoying the space of this Airbnb. It was this massive log cabin, and it was so amazing to have room to walk around in, and it was just gorgeous. And I was so fed up with our existing space, and I was sitting on the grass and I just had this flash, one of those epiphany moments. And I literally jumped up and I'm like, I'm buying my own work condo. And I got the idea from you because you've been to Seth Godin's work condo, which you can explain in a second. And I just knew 1,000% knew this was the answer and I was going to make it happen. And I jumped on the real estate website and found one option half a block from our house. And then that's not the one I ended up buying. I ended up buying another one that I think is much better. But it was so fascinating to watch my brain make a decision and believe it so strongly, and that it all happened and so quickly. But there was no waffling. There was no doubt. There was no, I don't deserve this. It's too much. Well, there's a little bit of it's too much, but it was fascinating to watch my brain try to talk myself out of this. But something deep inside was so committed to this idea that I knew it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting because you could have done this a long time ago, right? But you had these barriers up somewhere in your mind and in your life that did not allow you to see this as an option for yourself. Or maybe you saw it, but you saw too many barriers. And then all of a sudden something, like you said, that switch flipped. And then now it's it became a viable option. And then it was easy, like relatively easy. I mean, I was watching this whole process like unfold over the course of a month, and half of that time I was on vacation. And so I was getting these like random cell connections coming in and out of like Yellowstone National Park and the Grand Tetons. And like I'd get cell reception, and then I'd have text messages from you, like updating me on the status. And it was so exciting because it was like this, it was this thing that I knew was going to make you so happy, because it had been this like primary source of pain and discomfort for you for so long. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, I could just do this. And then it fell into place.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like my solution to the problem was trying to buy a new house for my family. And it was just like hitting my head against a wall. It was not working. And then a few years ago, I thought about, why don't I buy myself a little house in our neighborhood, like the cheapest house in the entire neighborhood. But it was still too expensive. Like I just couldn't afford it. And it just then they were ugly and old and like money pits, and so when I had the idea, like what I actually need is a condo, like a townhouse style condo, because I have a dog, as most people know, an annoying dog, and I just needed my own door. I didn't want to go to like an apartment style condo. I wanted like a townhouse condo, and that just like solved everything. And I happened to find this one that was recently renovated, like totally gutted and completely, it's like a brand new, like every electrical outlet is brand new. Every baseboard is brand new. There's new everything. The oven has not even been turned on. And it was like, oh, and then all of these ideas started to flow of what I could do with this condo. And that's really what sold it to my husband, is that, yes, this is a second property, an investment property, but how can we also make money from it as well? We're not just buying, Sandy, a ridiculously expensive and very, very, very large 3-bedroom office, right? Because that does seem a bit excessive.
Not if it makes you happy, Sandy.
But can you tell us about Seth Godin's
yeah.
condo?
So I had an internship with Seth many, many years ago, right when I was in the early days of imagining our company and still very much practicing law. And I got to spend time in the summer at his office, which is a work condo in New York, just outside of New York City. And I remember telling you about it. It was like this like amazing space, because Seth could walk from his home to this workspace. So he had separation obviously in his life, which I think was really elegant. And then he could host groups of people, like the group that I was a part of, where, they could come for a week or two or however long, and they had this place to gather and eat. There was a kitchen, and for those who've ever interned with Seth, like the part of the joy of that experience is that he cooks for you, and he's this like amazing cook. And so it was just this like really lovely idea to have this gathering space where it was like his music and his art and like his creative space and his library, and where he could film and where he could record his audiobooks. And he could also bring groups of people together. And I just thought it was the most brilliant thing in the world. So I think it's so great that you took that idea and ran with it, Sandy, because like, I don't have the ability to do that because I live on a rural, remote island and have no need for these things. But for those of you that live in cities, like it's such a smart thing. And then real estate, of course, is like almost always a good investment if you're planning on holding on to it over time. So it's also like with inflation right now, we talked a lot about this with when you were considering your idea, like right now, having money sitting in the bank is kind of a terrible idea. Like we're having in the recent decade, like we're having record inflation. And so your money is just like losing value when it's not invested. And so investing in real estate is kind of a no-brainer.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's something that I had to get my head around because I'm someone who wants to feel safe with money, and I will hold it and I won't spend it. And so I had a few moments of panic, and then you had to talk me off, like just jump, Sandy, and do it, because you're very much more free with the money and will spend. So I sold a business a few years ago, and that's the money that I use for the down payment. And it's been sitting in the bank for years, and it's just absolutely ridiculous because I always thought I would take it out and buy a house for my family, like a new house. Clearly that wasn't going to happen. And so it only made sense to use that to invest in real estate, but it was incredibly hard to let that go. And I did have a moment of panic as I went to the bank to get the check or the certified check for the lawyer to make the down payment. Like, oh my God, like I will not have this money in the bank. And it was a moment of fear. And I just had to like think my way out of it because, it's like, but you're going to make more money, right? Like that's what I had to tell myself. So yeah, I think that real estate is smart. I think that people who have asked me, like I ran, what I'm dealing with now is explaining it in a way that makes sense to people. Cause it's like, nobody does this and it's super confusing. Like this area is super quiet. And I ran into a neighbor, like the first person I met, and he was like, "Oh, welcome to the neighborhood. And, where'd you come from? And did you just move to Calgary?" And I said, "No, actually we have a house a few minutes away. This is just where I'm going to be working." And he was just like silent. And he's like, "That's weird." And he just like walked on. I was like, "Oh my God, how do I explain this?" Oh no, he said, "That's weird."
Yeah.
And then he said, "I'm in window covering. So if you need anything, let me know. I'm in this unit." And, and so I just like what I'm struggling with now is like, how do I, and I guess obviously I can't make anyone think or feel anything, but it does feel a bit excessive. Like other than this is an investment property and lots of people do that, but who actually invests in something and then just uses a second property to work in?
I think a lot of people who have,
I do.
Yeah, a lot of people who have
Badass.
wealth do this. I watch a lot of, we've talked a little bit about this before. Like I'm fascinated by the real estate investing community. It's so different than the other communities that I'm a part of and that I play. And I'm not a real estate investor by any means, but I'm fascinated by this like subculture of people. And I think they're really smart and they're really creative. And I think it's one of the fastest and kind of most available ways to build wealth is to get into that. And there's a lot of reasons why I don't want to be like, I don't want to be a landlord. Like I have a lot of personal resistance to a lot of elements of it, but I'm fascinated by watching it. And I think that, at least in the US, the way that our tax codes work here, there's so many tax benefits to being smart about real estate investing when you're a business. And so, I think I'm sure it's similar in Canada as well.
Yeah, I think so. Can we talk about how I'm going to make money here?
Yes. Okay. So I know this, but tell our listeners your ideas for how you're going, in addition to using the space and holding it, which is like a great way to invest in real estate. What are the other ways that you're going to bring cash flow in?
So I did a little presentation to my husband to sell this idea. And to his credit, I just want to say too, that it was my birthday when I had the idea. And he said, "I didn't get you anything." We're on holidays. He's like, "Sandy, I didn't get you anything. I never know what to get you." And I said, "Here's what I want. I want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to this idea. Like just listen and be open." And that was his gift to me. And he did it. So to his credit. And so what I said was like, here's the range that I'm looking at. Here's, given all like the, interest rates, here's what the payments would be. Here's how much we could put down. And here's how I would make that money back. And my number one idea, of course, is to Airbnb it. And I thought, that if I like weekends, or I could just like leave for the, like go work at home for a couple months in the summer, during Stampede here, and I could just Airbnb it. However, it's not allowed in this condo association because there's like a million rules. So that one was like crossed off the list as soon as I had made the offer and was able to look at the condo docs here, the rules. So the number two idea, which I had the moment I stepped into the space, is because they had it staged so beautifully. Like I would have bought the furniture instantly if I could, or could have. And it's a photo studio. So there's so many people online, as you and I well know, that you have to get pictures, images taken all the time for social, for your launches, for your website, for a million things. Like all you do are have pictures of yourself online. And you and I are always like trying to get together 2 or 3 times a year to do new photo shoots. And we haven't been able to do that because of COVID. So we're using old pictures and it's like driving us crazy that we don't have anything updated. But we're always looking for Airbnbs that we can rent and like take some photos, or like what's the location. And it has to be kind of lifestyle-y, like you're working. And so as soon as I walked in here, I was like, oh my God, this is a place to take brand photos. It's white, it's clean, it's modern, it's on trend. And so I knew that you and I could come here and just do repeated photo shoots. And there's like lots of green space around. There's a river, so you could do outdoor photos as well. Um, so that was my number two idea. And then, which I'm going to do, I just need furniture. And then number three was like, always you can rent it, right? And the real estate agent told me that, so this would be furnished because we're going to make it a little photo studio. And so she said you would just get top dollar for this being so new and so beautiful. And the location is really amazing in Calgary. It's right on the river. So so those are my three options. So right now I'm being like interior designer to make it beautiful. And I have contacts with, videographers and photographers. And what's interesting, I've been watching them in Calgary, like who's got photo studios, like how much does it cost to rent a photo studio? But they're all like boring. They're like, like that curved white thing, whatever that's called. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I know that like back green screen thing.
Yeah. One lady has a photo studio that she lives in and has a pink fuzzy couch that she photographs everybody on. And also I noticed one of the photographers, and I think this is so interesting. I don't think I told you this. Because people need photos so often, she actually has like a subscription, like you pay for quarterly photo shoots, right? Because it doesn't end. Such a good idea. So that's sort of like photography going into this, like recognizing how important brand photography is. And so every quarter she'll meet with you, you pre-buy it. And it's like a subscription and you just get these like X number of photos for every quarter. So I am going to be looking. So if you guys are in Calgary and need a place to photo, like have photo shoot, like let me know. It's going to be beautiful. It's not done yet. And then also someone else just said that their friend needs to make soap and can't have a kitchen. I have a huge, massive kitchen. Come make soap, make it smell beautiful here. I'll rent that to you. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. And then I can still like keep one bedroom as my office. And then somebody can be down here, using it for whatever.
That's such a smart idea. Yeah. I mean, I wonder if you could even make a commercial kitchen, like you could get a commercial kitchen license. So somebody could like make cookies and sell them at the farmer's market.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm open to it all. Like I think, and what I love is that they're not going to be here every day, like for those scenarios. Even if I did 4 photo shoots a month or rented the kitchen twice a month, like that would make a significant dent in the mortgage payment. And I still have my office and I have the rest of the week, right? Like it's not like someone's renting the whole place for a weekend or a week at a time or anything like that. So, and then that's the other thing. I say that, and people who are not in online business are like, photo shoot? What? Like they don't understand. Like to them, it's like a headshot, against a brick wall. And I'm like, no, people need that. And nobody understands. So anyway, so you and I need to have a photo shoot here, or maybe with COVID, it would just be me. And then I'll have those photos to show people. And my photographer friend can sort of spread the word that there's this location that is available. Yeah. You can make a whole website about it.
And I'll make a whole website about it.
That's going to be really
Instagram.
Yeah. Such a fun website to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need a brand.
Saying it out loud to people who understand online business makes me feel good. Cause I've just been talking to people who are like, huh? Like even my mom and my dad are like, you're what? They just don't understand. And my friend's partner was like, so let me understand, Sandy. So you just spent $500,000 on an office for yourself? Like he can't explain it to him. I'm like, yes, I did. He's like, he just looks at my husband like, what? Like, so anyway, I'm glad that you understand and support. And
I love it. I think I am the one that's interacting with you every day, all day on Zoom. And so your happiness quotient has gone up considerably now that you're out of your house.
I like my other house better because I'm not so crammed in. I have more room for my plants. I brought a ton here. That's all I have are plants on my desk. And I think my relationship with my husband is better because I'm not so angry and resentful that he won't agree to buy a new house. Like it just solved so many problems. Not, it's just like it wasn't a huge, like, we're not like we're fighting every day, but it was just like irritation, and it's just like, oh, everything is solved. Everything is solved. So,
well, so I remember when I went to graduate school and I grew up in a
yeah, I mean, we've shared our money stories before, and I grew up in a family that had a very complicated relationship with money. And there was a tremendous amount of scarcity and at some points, abundance. But I remember when I went to graduate school at Yale and I was moving into my like rental house in New Haven with these two roommates I had never met. And one was from Connecticut and one was from Maine. And my roommate from Connecticut, her parents were there because it was just, like an hour away from their house, and they were helping her move in. And like they had these movers there and I had just driven a U-Haul by myself, like from North Carolina where my family was at the time, and like whatever earthly possessions I had were there. And I had driven this U-Haul by myself. And then I had gone to IKEA to like get furniture. And it was this like very traumatic experience to be by myself doing all of this in this new place. And I remember when her parents said, well, why don't you just throw a little money at it? When they saw me struggling, and they're there, and like there's this moving team like setting their daughter's room up and getting their like they were very generous, and like I think like how it furnished the rest of the house, like so that the shared common spaces it was very nice of them. But I was just like, I was so like confused.
What a concept. Yeah.
Like throw a little money at it. And I've just like remembered that phrase, and my whole life
you've used that.
I do. I love it. I think it solves so many problems. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
Is you had this problem in your life and you threw some money at it, and now the problem is solved.
Yeah.
And so anyone who says like money doesn't like solve things, I don't think it's true. I think it really can solve
money
things.
Solves things for
It
sure.
really does.
I don't think that money makes you happy, but it absolutely solves problems. Like 100%.
Yeah.
It solves
like,
problems. Yeah.
Solves it. Like done. Fixed.
Yeah. It's so interesting. So we've been talking a lot about this. We have we have mindset calls in our inner circle program, and we've been talking a lot about money. And so I'm super aware of what my brain is doing, and what it's doing right now is like, what you just heard me say is like, what are people going to think about me? Like, that's where my, like, I don't want to be seen as odd or strange or ridiculous or excessive. And so my work now is like, my phrase is like, this is so effing badass. Like, this is badass. And everyone else is going to think what they're going to think. And I am worried that they're going to think that I am excessive. And now it's like, you call me excessive. I'm 100% excessive, but like, this is like, I'm super proud and excited, but I have moments where I dip into like, oh my God, what are people going to think about me?
Yeah.
So that's the work. Okay. I want to talk about you.
Okay. It's not as exciting.
Yeah, but it's still badass for sure. What did you recently purchase?
Oh
Jennifer?
my God.
What did you throw money at?
Yesterday, for a very complicated set of reasons that we don't need to get into, I bought an almost brand new Airstream, a 25-foot Globetrotter, which is kind of my dream rig. And I don't know at what point I became obsessed with like digital nomad lifestyle and like full-time family living on the road and all of those things. But I have been, it's kind of like this overlapping community with the online business space, not so much for families. But I've been following and mildly obsessed with this like other subculture for a long time, for the better part of a decade. And I've talked about it a little bit on the show before, but my family a few years ago, right before the pandemic, bought a taxi cricket. We bought that so we could camp. And then of course the world shut down. We had to cancel like all of the trips we had planned with it. And we went on a big trip this summer to across the West in the US and did some camping and did some traveling. And it was amazing. And it was even better than I expected. And it just like fulfilled this like part of me that I don't get filled. Mm-hmm. And I've always thought that Airstreams are like really amazing, but super, super out of reach. Cause it's like buying a house. Like it's basically buying a house. And then I was like, you know what? Like, what if we just upgraded? And so that we could actually travel for like real lengths of time. And with COVID, like, and having a child under 12 who isn't vaccinated, like air travel to me is still really risky. And I don't know when that's going to change or how that's going to change. And so, a lot of friends and family are spread out across North America. And so this idea that we could have like a home that we could take with us so that we could actually spend time with people we love, and not be limited by, the length of the pandemic or whatever else really appealed to me. And I always wanted, before I had my daughter, I've always wanted to take her, and travel with her and like teach her about places. And I love history, and I have a degree in environmental science, and I love obviously wild natural places. I live on one, but we're really sheltered here. So anyway, we bought an Airstream, and I am planning on spending part of my life traveling and working from there. And so I didn't tell you this, Sandy, but I had this thing installed. That's what they were doing in the last week that called a WeBoost. So I have this crazy internet thing on the top of the Airstream so that that basically amplifies cell signal and turns it into Wi-Fi that we can use. So I can work from anywhere, and I'm going to have all the little whiz bangs and widgets so that regardless of whatever.
How does that work? So you just need to have cellular towers. You need to have connection to a cellular tower. As long as
even if you have a really weak connection at all, it takes it in strength. I don't understand all of this. I'm just telling you the kindergarten version. But even if you have any kind of remote cell connection, it takes it and amplifies it so that you can get Wi-Fi.
That's super cool. That's amazing. What I found interesting watching you go through this decision was you were trying to make a decision about some other things in your life.
Yeah.
And then you constantly said, all I want to do is buy an Airstream and travel.
Yeah.
These are what we're looking at. All I want to do is buy an Airstream. And then you just would light up. And I was like, Jenny, can you just please do that? Forget everything else. When we state our desires and it lights us up the way that it did you, that's what you're meant to do. That's what you have to do. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I thought about it. I have worked so hard in building this company for so many years with this as some kind of end goal. And what if I don't have to wait until we sell this company or, make $1 billion before I do this? You could, then again, it's just deciding what to invest in and what you're, what cost you're willing to pay for something to have the life you want. And then I was like, well, I could be building this company from a campsite in Joshua Tree. And then I could go and be in Moab for a while. And I can take my daughter to family, in the South, and we can be it's just limitless. And I can come see you as long as the border is open, right? I can come up and to make that couple-day drive and just have this beautiful home on wheels and go see you. So it just opens up kind of all of the things that I'm looking for. And I live on a remote ferry serviced island, which has gotten even harder to get on and off since the pandemic for a variety of reasons, including ferry worker strikes and people being sick and routes getting cut. And so I have felt increasingly isolated here in a way that's oh, if you need to go to the doctor or you need to go to the dentist or you need to do anything, it's just harder than it was. So the idea that I can just leave and have a place to stay that's safe, really is a lot of peace of mind for me.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. 'Cause you've talked about that before about just wishing you had a second property on the mainland or just some place to go. Right. And, so yeah, this serves a lot. And near my dad's farm, we've got a place to have large vehicles like that. So
you have totally made fun of that place to me. So I just have to add that this should showcase our differences. Sandy has this posh urban condo that's impeccable. And I'm in the tin can on the wheels driving around. And it's so perfect because we're both us.
No. I just want to clarify the place that you're where can I put my Airstream? I was I don't know. And then I remembered there's this parking lot with electrical outlets on sticks, that people camp at. And it's literally a prairie. It's a parking lot with gravel and electrical outlets. It's ridiculous. So every time we drive by, we make fun of the people that go and camp there. If you leave Calgary and go camp in a parking lot, that is ridiculous when we have all the Rocky Mountains 30 minutes away. Yeah. So I make fun of those people who choose to camp there. I would not make fun of you who drive an Airstream and want to come to the city. And that's where you're going to park your Airstream, because you can't just pull up than my little tiny wee driveway with it. So.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's like it's a whole thing to drive that. It's 47 feet long with
God.
With the truck attached, it's 47 feet. It's like a train. It's like longer than a big rig. It's intense. So yeah, it's like a whole skill to be able to like do that and maneuver that. I love it so much. Like I love this stuff. Like it's just, you had to get this like really special tow hitch, like weight distributor tow hitch installed yesterday, and totally into it. Like just deciding I'm just going to like be able to be happy about what I like, and that it doesn't, whatever, it's fine.
I love the message too of just like not waiting, right? Like let's just throw a little money at it and get what we want, and not wait for everything to like be perfect, or like that end goal, or that, $100 million exit, or whatever you guys are all aiming for. Right. Like, I think it's fun. Like, it's so fun. And I don't regret spending this money for the 4 days I've had the property. I don't regret it.
Good. Yeah. I think that's a big part of it, right? But there's this idea that we achieve something and then we're allowed to have what we really want, or that we retire. And for many people, it's retirement, right? So the people that do what I'm doing are, usually retired, and I don't play by those rules. Like I lost my parents like really young. They both died before they were ever in what you would call retirement. And so I'm not willing to put things off. And I think COVID, like just further, like I dug my heels in even more. Cause like, my daughter starting in second grade, like went out of school because of the pandemic, right? Like school shut down in her second grade. And so like none of what I imagined like her childhood was going to, and I'm sure for you too, like this is not what any of us planned.
There's no certainty in anything.
Yeah. And also like, maybe because of that, it's easier to rethink what's possible. Right. Cause like, I think if the pandemic hadn't happened and my kid was in school and things were normal, and she was like in sports and had like some kind of normal school existence, like I wouldn't dream of like taking her out and driving around and living in an RV for any period of time. But because that's not the case, like anything's on the table. Like why, like, okay, well, school's broken, at least for now, for most of us. Like it's a shell of what it was before the pandemic. And so like that, just for those of us that have kids and families, I think it opens the door quite a lot. And it's not just us in online business. Like I've been following a lot of Instagram accounts and YouTubers who are people like, nurses, like registered nurses are like, so many people are actually like traveling and working in different hospitals and making like so much money, like taking advantage of this, right? Like uprooting their lives and making different decisions. And I think that's the beauty of the chaos is getting to reimagine what's possible.
I love it. I think that's a great place to end. So thank you for sharing your
Thank
update.
You. Yeah.
All right. We should move into joy and hustle.
All right. Well, I think the joys are, for me, the joy is buying an Airstream, and there's a whole culture that goes along with that. And it is it is like kind of a cult. I don't know what else to call it. I'm just learning about it, but there's like rallies and like clubs and like secret numbers and like all kinds of things and gatherings. And I kind of dig it. Like, I think we don't have enough of this stuff, at least in like modern culture. I feel very disconnected from most people. So this idea that you can be like part of something, I think is really powerful and beautiful. So that's my joy, is just like exploring that subculture and figuring out where to fit in.
Okay. Then this episode is just going to have two joys.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make that. So I think we mentioned this before, and, but it's been a while, and this again, of like everything that I love, I usually find through you. So part of my deal to myself for the last couple of years is like, if I ever get a proper office, I'm going to put artwork in it, from Hilma Aft Klimt.
Oh,
And so I think we have mentioned it, but just follow that on Instagram. It's like Wilma, but with a H, Hilma Aft Klimt. And there's something just remarkable about that artwork. And she has an incredible sort of feminist story. She really is the first artist to do abstract work, but it was hidden until 1986. She didn't want anyone to see it. So I'm right here beside me. I'm going to have two of the swans in the Swan series, and I'm going to make them with black frames. got it all picked out, and I'm going to like do that for Hilma Afterklimt. And it's like a long time goal to have that artwork. I just never had any place to put it. And I don't know, that just makes me super joyful to think about buying that and hanging it up.
Yeah, I love that. I think the idea of making the space like whatever you dreamed it to be is so liberating. And we
But
get
it has to be like photo studio neutral as well. So it's like can't be too personal, but yeah, I think this will work.
I think it's great. And the plants, I can already see the plants behind you.
That's all I have is empty box of plants. But
yeah, you could totally do a whole like plant lady thing. You could be like another
plant wall.
Instagram.
Like I'm like those, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Everyone else doesn't, but I'm making a plant wall. I'm going to hang these things. I will show that on Instagram when I get it done. It's super cool.
So fun.
All right. Thank you, Jenny. Nice to chat with you.
Thank you, Sandy. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.